Hello, I'm James Benny. Not a drop of Native American blood in my veins, but I'm interested in the culture and the society and the civilization that existed here for thousands of years before we got here. This short video is meant to communicate my impression of the Volvon Tribe as being one of the most important tribes in Central California for thousands of years. They controlled access to the mountain behind me, Mount Diablo, also known as Tuyshtak. Nobody went up there without their permission. The Volvons occupied this plateau about 2,000 feet up on the north side of Mount Diablo. They hosted big-time tribal trading gatherings, ceremonial gatherings, and ritual events that people would come from hundreds of miles to attend. Bev Ortiz, prominent East Bay anthropologist, has written, Mount Diablo is featured in the traditions of several California Indian nations. It was the focal point of the physical and symbolic world for many of the tribal groups surrounding it. Right below us here is what we call the lower Volvon village. There's 200 bedrock mortars down there, multiple mysterious cupual rocks. We think it was inhabited by up to 100 people for thousands of years. Now it's part of the East Bay Regional Park District and the Morgan Territory Regional Preserve. Almost nobody knows it's there, although they walk right through it and right by it frequently. You have to walk into it. You have to sit down into it, sit down next to one of these 200 bedrock mortars. Try to imagine what it was like down there with 100 people waking up every morning. Moms, dads, kids, grandparents, and then going about their business. It would have been all over the place. We're here now in the western end of the main Volvon village, which runs from here almost a half a mile down this gully, featuring over 750 bedrock mortars that we have uncovered. Right here beside me, this circle of rocks we believe was placed here on purpose. We don't know how many hundreds or thousands of years ago. We think this was a ceremonial site or a celebration site here. And this circle of rocks was part of it. It has several different kinds of bedrock mortars. I'll show you one in a minute. And out here we have what we think was the ceremonial site, where we're right in between two watersheds here, Marsh Creek and Mallory Creek. Mount Diablo visible in the distance. The 8,000-year-old Los Vaqueros man was uncovered 3 miles down the creek here. That man, 8,000 years ago, probably came to this site. Almost assuredly did. The other thing that we like to point out is that a study in Monterey County found that a skeleton in a cave that they uncovered was 5,000 years old. They were able to extract DNA from it, and they went around Monterey looking for older Native American Indians, and they found a woman who was directly related to this 5,000-year-old skeleton. And what this tells us is that these were stable populations of people. We think that the people here could have been here for 5,000 years or longer. The same families, the same tribal setup, the same people in charge of the mountain, Mount Diablo. Why is it important? Why is it important that they were able to live on this land for so long? What was their society like? What was their culture? What was their structures, their religious structures, their social and religious structures? How did they live? And what were the things that they had going on that allowed them to be here in California for so long? Today there's an increasing awareness that there might be something of value to be gained from indigenous cultures. And we have here a site that is a prototype of an indigenous cultural settlement here in California. People are paying more attention to it now. Despite evidence we have discovered of over 80 sites and over 2,000 bedrock mortars here in Volvon territory, awareness of this tribe and its existence appears to be almost non-existent. We haven't found anybody who's even interested. Indigenous cultures threatened with extinction in many parts of the world, here in the San Francisco Bay Area are revitalizing their cultures and their languages, their ceremonies, and the different things that they do to make themselves feel whole here on the land. Despite evidence we have discovered of over 80 sites and 2,000 bedrock mortars here in Volvon territory alone on this part of Mount Diablo, there appears to be no interest and no appreciation of the fact that this site is here at all. We're working to change that. I'm going to read a little quote now from Linda Yamani, the major league artist, basket weaver, and spokesperson for the local Bay Area Native American people. She writes, "The Ohlone Indian world of the past was rich in supernatural meaning and ritual, with shamans and healers, shapeshifters, and others who specialized in the mystical matters of their everyday world. The Volvon Tribe presided over this world. We're in the main Volvon village right now that controlled access to Mount Diablo, the sacred mountain." Okay, so here we are now above the main plateau of the Volvon village, right here below me. 450 bedrock mortars right there on that plateau, probably 60 or 70 house pits. We think 200 or 300 people minimum live there year round for generation after generation after generation. And over here, we'll pan over here, is the former site of the what we believe was the huge Volvon Roundhouse. Below us here is Brushy Peak. Brushy Peak featured the largest trading ground in Central California. There were artifacts found from all over the western states down there. This is about maybe an hour walk from here. This tribe would have had access to all the materials from the state of California that came to the Brushy Peak trading grounds. This would have been one of the most cosmopolitan atmospheres in Central California for thousands of years. Due to the complete removal of the Volvon tribe from this village by 1806, there are very few ancestors that we know of who are coming around to acknowledge and recognize this as their site. Because of the mountain's importance to all the tribes in the area, we think it could behoove a conglomeration of Native Americans from around Mount Diablo to come here and take control of this site, at least for certain times and places and ceremonies and various other rituals you might want to have, or just plain gatherings. Knowledge of these sites has been hidden for decades by a coordinated clandestine policy from the park districts and water districts and archaeologists and Native Americans to not disclose the location or even that these sites are even here. We have 80 sites here in Volvon territory on this side of Mount Diablo that we've identified. They're here, and you can't get away from them. This, however, is blocked off by Contra Costa Water District land, and they really don't want anybody to know about it at all. And I think that's just completely wrong. I think that everybody should know about this site. They should come here and experience this site and get a feel for the hundreds of people who lived here every day for thousands of years. It wasn't that far removed from where we are now today. Greg Castro, the Saline Nation Indian tribal leader, once wrote, and I love this quote, "The people came into the world, and they have been an integral part of it since the dawn of time. Though much has been lost in the last 2.5 centuries, the knowledge lies deep within each of us. Like a mountain stream, it eventually works its way back to the surface. Knowledge, wisdom, courage, truth, love, strength, respect, forgiveness, integrity, patience, humility, they all are bubbling out to quench our thirst. Love that quote. We think the public needs to know about these places and that they need to respect these places. The people that own and control them now need to respect them. We don't know how old this site is, and we sure would like to know. Some people say that these sites are older than the pyramids of Egypt. We don't know about that, but it's not hard to conceive that these Indians could have been here since they first discovered Mount Diablo. Being a site between these two creeks, these two watersheds, and its proximity to the mountain, this was a great site from the very beginning of time. Again, I'd like to know how old is this site. I'd like somebody to come out here and tell me, is it 1,000 years old or is it 5,000 years old? Or more. I think that could be determined with a little bit of scientific interest, or interest from somebody. In the meantime, this site will disappear if it is just fenced in and people don't talk about it or come to it. The duff from the cattle and the hillsides and the trees blowing around will just cover it up, and it'll be lost in time. This village is a vital and accessible link to the past, as well as an archaeological laboratory waiting to open. Imagine if UC Berkeley took an interest in this site. They might first figure out how old it is, and next try to figure out how many people really did live here for all those years and generations. It's a fantastic